Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
You're watching Disruptive Investing. We're going to have news today on Fisker, Volta, Canoo, and so much more. And there are so many news stories on like these smaller companies in the EV space. It can be hard to keep up.
It's also important as investors to learn lessons, not just from the winners, but also from the also-rans, so we can hone our skills as company pickers.
Disclaimer, we're not financial advisors. Do not listen to us for financial advice. We're just talking about things we know something about, but you go do your own research. So let's start off this week with Fisker Motors.
Hate to say we told you so, but...
We told viewers over the past few weeks on our Patreon Investor Club bonus stories, and you can go support us over there on Patreon if you want, that as Fisker's financial problems worsened, orders would disappear. And now we've got some reporting from Business Insider. Yuck, I don't like even saying Business Insider. It's such it's an awful newspaper. It's going away soon.
But here's what they said. More than 40,000 out of well over 70,000 reservations for the Fisker Ocean have been canceled to date. That is, by the way, $9 million in reservation reimbursements alone. So that's not what the whole total car would have cost. That's what the reservation amount reimbursement was.
Yeah, you remember we told you, what was it, last week, that Fisker had lost a whole bunch of checks and deposits? Yes, Mrs. Smith, yes. We'll get you that reservation refund as soon as we can find it. Let me see. I misplaced the checks. Don't worry. I'm sure they'll turn up. Now, let's see. I came in. I put down my keys. And then, where did I put the box full of deposits?
And did you put the envelope in your pocket?
Yeah,
All right.
no, maybe.
Maybe. I don't want any maybe. We've got to find that money.
I'm no good to you.
Uncle Billy, look, do you realize what's going to happen if we don't find it?
Yeah, that literally happened. They lost the money and the records. They don't know where it went.
Yeah. So last week, Fisker dropped prices on the Ocean by nearly 40% to boost sales, with the lowest priced option, the Ocean Sport, available for $24,999, a nearly $14,000 price difference from its regular retail price of $38,999.
Can I just mention how desperate you have to be if you're cutting the price by that much? Yeah. Mrs. Smith, we did lose your deposit. You're right. But we're cutting the cost of the car by $14,000.
Yes. Well, and you think that that's a lot. The Ocean Extreme got cut $24,000. That's not the price of the car. That's how much it got cut by. Its regular price was $61,499. Now it is $37,499.
Here's the thing. I would go out and buy one at that price, except for one little thing. Service. After something goes wrong, and you're like, oh crap, I got to get the bumper fixed or something. You're going to call Fisker, and they'll be like, press 1 if you want to find out what happened to Fisker. We're gone. You're not going to be able to get it fixed. Right. And you might think, well, just bring it to your local service station. No,
they're gonna go, okay, well, I need this part. So then they're gonna go to the parts place and they're gonna go,
there is no such
Fisker,
part.
what are you talking about? You mean Ferrari?
You could use a Toyota Corolla bumper, and we'll just kind of mash it on there, okay? It won't be the right color.
So, yeah, I think that's why a lot of orders have dropped off, because do you want to buy a car from a company that's going out of business? Next up is Volta Trucks, the UK-based electric truck startup that started working on their Volta Zero in 2019.
So Volta got several rounds of funding over the years as the story of producing a last-mile electric truck interested investors. And, remember, money was cheap and plentiful. Remember those times? Well, when the money dried up, so did Volta's runway, because they hadn't produced a truck yet, and so they smartly pivoted to having their truck made by the same company that's making the Fisker Ocean.
Steyr Automotive in Austria.
Yep. The plan was to make 500 trucks this year and 2,000 next year. Problem is, like we said, the money ran out, and so Volta had to file for bankruptcy about 6 months ago.
Now Volta is back from bankruptcy, leaner and... well, just leaner. The new owner, Luxor Capital, fired about 600 employees. They are down from 750 employees, which if you're doing the math, not a lot of people working at Volta these days. And they've renamed the company Volta Commercial Vehicles Limited.
Yeah, they plan on getting trucks compliant for UK roads by July, and then customer trials in Germany, France, the Nordics, and Austria will begin.
So how are they going to fund all of this?
Well, the new CEO, Essa Al-Salah, a Kuwaiti national living in Switzerland, was chairman of the board of Volta since 2020 and CEO of the old Volta since April 2021. He said that the new Volta plans on having a Series A funding round later this year to hopefully raise enough capital to start deliveries and get some revenue coming in. Oh, and also Volta is hoping to show off its trucks in Paris during the Summer Olympics.
Wow. So very similar story to Fisker.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the reasons they went out of business, they claim, is that they were relying on their battery supplier, Proterra, who also went bankrupt. And I just call foul on that one because you go and you check out a company that you're going to work with, especially in such an important thing as batteries. And even if they didn't see it coming that they were going to go out of business, as things were getting worse with Proterra, maybe you have a backup on your list of like, where would we get batteries if Proterra goes out of business? But to not have a backup is like, well, that's kind of ridiculous. Also, the car's being made in Austria. Proterra was not making batteries in Austria. Why didn't you find like a company closer to Austria to get your batteries? It seems like they put it all on Magna Steyr to me, like that, just like, well, you figure it out. And then, again, you're not really a car company or a truck company if you're not making the trucks. You're kind of like Zach and Jesse could have a car company if we had someone else make the trucks for us. That's not really the same thing.
That's how car companies work, Zach.
It was.
What do you think Magna Steyr does all day? They make cars for other people.
Now, which badge would you like us to put on?
And look, while we're talking about failing EV companies, how about an update from Canoo? You know Canoo, the Texas-based startup founded in 2017 that started by wanting to make a subscription-based EV rideshare, but then pivoted to selling their van or pickup truck directly to commercial customers.
So we learned from the recent full-year earnings report that Canoo brought in only $886,000 in revenue in 2023. But guess how much they paid for CEO Tony Aquilah's private jet bills?
$1.7 million.
That's right. Canoo reported losses of $302 million in 2023. I wonder why. It would have been $300 million, but you know what? Why not add a couple million on top of that? Just because Tony only flies private, baby.
And in case you're thinking, well, this must have just been an unusually busy year for Tony, right? Just an anomaly, right?
Nope. Canoo spent $1.3 million the previous year, 2022, on Tony's private jet bills.
Tony, have you heard of a little thing called Zoom or Skype?
So to keep their stock listed on NASDAQ, which is Go EV, they did a 1-for-23 reverse stock split last month. Ooh, so that means if you had 23 stocks, you would now have one. And it would be worth $2.13. That's the latest that I got.
Yeah. So as we're seeing now with Tesla, right? Canoo should have probably focused on their ride-sharing business. They should have stayed in that. And then they could have transitioned into robo-taxis with licensed hardware and software from Tesla. Then they would have had an early mover advantage in some cities.
Well, they just would have waited around.
No. They would have started their service not autonomously, driven by a human, right?
Oh.
Got their brand, and you would have seen these cool trucks all over town, right? And then one day they could have said like, and now without a driver. And then you would have like taken a autonomous drive.
So it would have been an expensive Uber for 5 years.
Well,
6,
why
7
expensive?
years.
I mean, EVs are efficient, so
Well, they have to make the
but
EV
they would have had revenue coming in. I mean,
revenue.
have you heard of the little thing called revenue?
That's interesting. But hey, it's not all bad news for Canoo.
No?
I heard that the U.S. Postal Service revealed in January that they're going to buy 6, count them, 6 Canoo LDV 190 delivery vans.
6.
Not 190 of them. That's the name of the truck. They're buying 6 of them.
Wait. The post office is spending like $20 billion on new fleet. Why are they only buying 6?
You know what? 6 is all we can afford.
So Canoo now has a market cap of $137 million, which I'd say is about $100 million too much for the company. I think $37 million is about what I would pay for this company. And again, disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, so do your own research.
Now, a whole bunch of things would have to go right for Canoo in terms of scaling production and raising capital to even stay solvent.
Yeah, and that's not to mention needing to develop or license FSD, because I think this is the big elephant in the room now. It was easy to ignore it before FSD 12.3 came out for Tesla a couple weeks ago. If you don't know what we're talking about, Tesla's cars, about 400,000 of them, have owners have paid for full self-driving, and Elon has let them try out 12.3. We've tried it out. It's amazing.
Well, and now all Tesla owners can try.
Yeah, there's a 1-month trial so that millions of them can try it.
Yeah,
and a lot of people, first of all, if you have a Tesla and you haven't tried it, you're getting it for free anyway. Try it, because I get it. Up until this point, up until 12.3, you could say, well, it drives like a 15-year-old. I wouldn't trust it. Blah blah. It now drives much better. I'm not saying it's perfect yet, but it's so much better. We know it's going to get there. For these companies like Canoo to not have a plan for this is kind of like being, I would say, an auto company back in the 2010s, whatever, and not have any plans to do anything past what like a Model T is. It's just to be like, well, we'll come up with this crappy car that you hand crank and we'll just not plan on anything else. Meanwhile, people come up with automatic transmissions and air conditioning and all that. It's like you have to keep evolving. So I just don't see how Canoo is going to make it.
It's because they're making an electric pickup truck. Have you heard about that? It's an electric pickup truck.
Yeah, and that was
And
great.
you know what? And it looks different than other pickup trucks.
And I was excited about it a few years ago, but it hasn't come out. But look, let's give Canoo a chance to speak. They said this recently.
Okay.
Had Reuters called Canoo for comment, we would have told them that we raised $324 million in 2022 and $288 million in 2023, and we are currently in discussions with several entities and individuals about investing in the company this year. We would have also told them that we have begun manufacturing, expect to step up our manufacturing effort this year, and have a backlog of orders, and that we are not in the consumer market. We're in the commercial market. I just want to respond here and say, nice try, Canoo, PR department, Tony. Running a company isn't all about whining and dining potential investors on your private jet, Tony. It's about producing compelling products at scale profitably. It has been 7 years. Where's your mass-produced product? Oh, I'm sorry. He did say we expect to step up our manufacturing effort this year. A bit late for that, wouldn't you say? All right, so we've reported a bunch before on this next company. It's the Taiwanese-based Goro.
Goro makes these battery swap stations and electric mopeds that use them.
They also license their tech to other e-mobility makers.
You may have heard about the 7.4 earthquake that hit Taiwan on April 3rd. No, you only heard about the one that happened in New York, huh? There was one that had Taiwan, and it was very big.
Yeah, this was the largest quake recorded there in over 25 years. So fact number one here is that mopeds in Taiwan outnumber cars 2-1. And they offer many advantages in situations like this, right, where the roads may have been closed, traffic is especially bad, and so they can fit through tighter spaces.
Goro is the largest electric scooter maker in Taiwan, so this was a really good test for their network.
So it appears to have been fully up and running following the quake and actually made things a lot easier, helping keep deliveries going, moving people around, even as gas station lines grew long.
Also, Gogoro's batteries serve as emergency backup to about 20% of capital city Taipei's traffic lights, which keeps them running during power outages, which might happen, say, during a 7.4 magnitude earthquake.
Yeah, there are thousands of these Goro battery swap stations around the island, so you can actually physically drive around the whole island and never have to stop. And in fact, in Taiwan cities, there are Goro battery swap stations located about every 200 meters or so you're never going to run out.
Goro is a publicly traded company. Now, disclaimer, we are not financial advisors.
And we do hold stock in Goro.
They went public about 2 years ago. They're on NASDAQ under GGR. So far, it's been a slow decline in stock price. Goro now has a $408 million market share.
Now, I believe Goro is currently undervalued. I think their battery swap stations, which are now being tested in the toughest of circumstances, show how resilient this technology is. And I believe that it's stories like this that will help them expand into other cities and countries around the world. Because when those governments hear that, like, wait, your batteries can help our traffic lights stay on and things like that, they're going to be like, yeah, come on in. It's a lot like the Tesla story in that most investors don't understand what Goro does and how much better electric scooters are than gas-powered ones.
And how Gogoro's battery swapping takes away the fear of range anxiety and helps lower the barrier to entry for customers wanting to buy an electric moped because they don't have to own the battery.
Also, not owning the battery means you don't have to worry about the battery life, which is kind of one of the things on people's minds when they buy a car, electric moped, is they go like, well, in a few years, if the battery dies, what am I going to do?
Even an electric bike.
Right.
I mean, we've had some electric bikes where the batteries die, and we go like, now it's just a bike.
And here, you don't own the battery. So it's like, that's Gogoro's problem. So I think that if you're looking for a disruptive investing company, here's something that is very disruptive, right? You've probably never heard of this in your city because this is new. Yes, Taiwan has it. Yes, they've expanded to other cities like in Israel and in India. But for the most part, this is something, unless you ride one every day, you just don't know about it.
And it's a culture thing. I think that, having grown up in the United States myself, you don't see too many mopeds. And when you do, they're just, and you just think that I would never ride one because it sounds ridiculous and it looks ridiculous. But in Taiwan, it is extremely popular. And with them being electric, I think it's a lot more palatable.
I also think that Europe is a huge untapped market here because I get it. Malaysia, Philippines, all these countries are great for scooters because they're just polluted like crazy. And replacing them with electric would be great. But in Europe, you've got these beautiful cities with these scooters that make a lot of noise and a lot of pollution. If you replace them, it's great because they've got very small streets. So scooters work great there, but you get rid of all the unwanted things you don't want with a scooter. So yeah, I think this is a huge upside to this market. So thank you so much for joining us on Disruptive Investing. Make sure you comment down below if you've got companies you want us to check into. Don't forget that we also do lots of cool interviews here. We just had a really cool one with Hertz Energy the other day. So go back and check some of those older ones because a lot of the news is still very relevant.
We'll see you guys next week on Disruptive Investing.